Hi, and welcome to this new edition of Tiny Tableau Tips with your Tableau Jedi from Norway. This coming weeks, I'm going to focus on some tips from Tableau Prep. I'm using that quite a lot, and there's a lot of cool tips that you might not know of. So let's look at some data that I'm going to connect to. I have an Excel sheet with some active duty family marital status report. And as you see in Excel, the data doesn't start at A1. It does start at B9, I think, or even B8. And we have some fields that are combined with some headers. And then, of course, we have all the data and some totals in here. So if I go back to Tableau Prep, I go and connect to Microsoft Excel. And then I'll just find my workbook in my data sources. And then you will see that we get the connection on the left-hand side. We have one for Army, one for Air Force. Let's just do the Army for now. We can drag or double click to get that in. But we do see that we get F1, F2, F3 as headers. That's really annoying, right? So how do we do that? We could go in and check the header options. We can set the header over here and say that the data starts at a specific header row and the data starts at a specific row. But if it doesn't start at A and then a matching row, we will be in trouble. So what I would like to do is to use the same thing that we also have in Tableau Desktop, this data interpreter. This is functional when you have data in Microsoft Excel workbooks. What it actually does is that it scans your Excel sheet, try to figure out where are your data, where are your headers, and when it's done cleaning, and that's the whole concept of Tableau Prep, right? Is to clean, but this also worked for Tableau Desktop. When you use this interpreter and connect to Excel files, we see that we now have pay grade, single without, children, single without, children, female, etc. So it's combining that those fields, those top headers that are combined as well. Tableau always would like you to view and clean the data, and that's something I always do. So when I do this, I can have a look at my data. I have all my different headers over here. And of course, there's a lot of totals in here as well. And I don't necessarily need these totals because, well, that's what we do. And when we put the data eventually into Tableau Desktop, we will do the accumulation, summarize, or aggregate something. So what we can do, we can look at the data grid. This is only the data, or on the right-hand side, we can show the actual fields in here. So if I would like to get rid of all the totals, I can just search for total on the right-hand side. I can select all of these. And then I can either hide the fields in case I would like to use them later on, or I can just remove these by clicking the X. If I now get rid of my search and go back to my starting point, I have way less columns as well to work with. Also, we see in the pay grade, we have some grand totals in here, and we have some total enlisted officers, warrant, and so on. Same thing goes for this one. We can search for total, if I manage to spell it correctly, then select these. Now we're not removing columns, but we're removing actual rows of data in here. So right click, exclude all of these once, and then we have the data to work on in the future. And an extra quick tip in here is that when we've done these changes, we might go to a new clean step. We do some aggregation, we join with something else, we do some calculated fields. That depends on, of course, your use case. If I go back to my clean one, this changes window on the left-hand side shows me that I've done 2 changes. And then when I click on it, you see that I've removed some fields and I've filtered on the pay grade. And if I would like to edit these, you see that there's a pin in this one. So if I go in, I can then see this is actually a calculation going in the background. So I can adjust this if I want to. And then if I click on any of these, it also will highlight which fields I've adjusted or done any changes with. And then we can either remove the change. We can even change the order of when stuff is going to happen. But be careful if something is then connected with something else. I'll talk a bit more about changes in an upcoming session. So hopefully this was a nice little tip where you can learn how to use this clean with data interpreter if you have not necessarily a messy Excel data source, but an Excel file that has different type of setup than what Tableau expects. Good luck.